Okay, let's try that again. Perfect. I'm just relaxing. I just don't. Ooh. Have to slow down for sure. New channel alert. Let's give gratitude for everything. Source, the Most High, whatever you subscribe to. Give gratitude. Unfiltered inner child here. I was in the shower. Okay, stomach out here. I was in the shower and I was getting a lot of clarity. And what I was, I'm bringing to you all is the importance, of course, of the inner child and how much we are in the process of recalibration, recovery, rehabilitating, rehabilitation, but and you can say recycling that which is we've thrown out, like the inner child, like the little boy and girl, we've thrown out that which is gonna sustain us the rest of our duration in this human experience, whatever you want to call it, upon this journey. Just imagine like how you've thrown out the very things that were valuable, and then now you have to go back in the trash because you were taught to discard the very things that keeps you in a flow state, in a prosperous, harmonious, and joyful state of being, or just, to the core of who you are. So I'm going to get into the fact of it's not even that you failed or that your relationships failed. I mean, you have two individuals or an individual who doesn't have a connection to that which brings them joy. That they actually live out their childhood dreams. But most, not saying all, but most people are literally replaying their childhood nightmares or childhood traumas without them even knowing. So I was getting insight on how so many people, what else was it? It was like how the inner child is not even a priority. Like I was sitting here like, how many people actually get up and have the opportunity to pour into themselves? Like I sit and observe, and I'm giving this insight because I'm supposed to share it because, how many people are actually making time for themselves. You have some people actually be so combative, so argumentative and defensive when I make such statements and so forth. I'm so glad that I laid down last night and I got emotional. And I got emotional because I felt just overwhelmed. And I know a lot of people feel like this before they lay down. I felt so overwhelmed or overcome with a lot of emotions of like feeling like, talking to the Most High, talking to myself, and just was like, yo, I feel like so much responsibility and feel boggled down or overwhelmed. But in reality, I realize how important crying is. It's like purging to also regulate your nervous system. That was big for me. It's like crying, being able to cry and not a sobbing, but be able to cry and self-soothe myself and let myself know it's okay. Like you don't have to take on all this. You don't have to force this. You don't have to do that. It's all right. So that's probably for some of y'all. It's something I got to write down because me mentioning this brings up something I needed to know. Um, but yeah. Mm. I'm actually writing down something that's very important, stating that everyone learns different and receives information different, especially when you think about upbringing. Everyone, it doesn't matter. The whole what y'all think the school setting and all this shit is such a hoax. It's such a so much manipulation and control and deception around it, because every child comes from different environments, deal with different vices, receives differently. Even teachers can tell you that. They receive differently. Not to mention, you know, you dealing with children who don't even receive basic needs. So a lot of, and I've learned this even through experience, through my own experience. I used to purposely act out just to get some type of attention and affection. I mentioned this on a video like a while back, but it was related to the inner child. I know now it to be like an abandonment issues emotionally, because I wanted a teacher to react just to give me some type of attention, to make me feel seen, because I didn't feel seen at home. So the reason why a lot of systematic things are collapsing is because, again, it was built on discarding, throwing the essence and the inner child, the child in you, to keep everything around your imagination discarded, not to recycle it. This reflects the schooling, the house system, monetary, everything. I was sitting here getting clarity, like, man, the abandonment issue of a country like America and then everything around it, it's like they literally put people in position or force feed them certain things, but then when it comes to basic, natural, economic, human resources, certain things, they abandon them. Think about that. They'll give them this and this and this, breadcrumbing, abuse of power, narcissistic templates. It's no different. It's the energy centered around, it's an energy around the fact of whether whomever is a representation in these positions are still a representation of a distorted mother and father energy. They still are a representation. It doesn't matter how you look at it. They're still a representation of something, an energy, a force. So when I think about pondering on, like, I was also getting the fact of, like, how the fuck can you create a system or create something to where you have children who are already going through things, parents are trying to make their so-called ends meet, because how can you make something that is at the end of something, which is done like a dead end, meet this end? That don't even make no fucking sense. Make no sense. Now connecting something is different. But anywho, you got, environments that are purposely created that way for one to stay in survival and the one to thrive. And then in a universal sense, the one who has been perceived as thriving is literally a mere illusion. It's an illusion. And it's to keep people who are in survival in a confused state or in a stuck and stagnant mindset to think that that's all there is. It's not. There's a shift I already told y'all in power, not even just power, authority. Because the beauty of what's to come down the pipeline is just going to reflect that those people have not been thriving. That's the illusion. That's just surface. But they really have nothing structured within themselves. Because once certain things are removed on the surface, because that's all they know, and that's all they've been getting, they're gonna realize how they're the fool just as anyone else been the fool. The same fools who just thought that this was all there is. Everyone was a fool at a point in time. They're just as foolish when it comes to the fact of they don't have a structure regarding the inner child. I was sitting here getting clarity. I was like, yo, it's wow how people actually think it's okay and fair to see other people in a survival state. They actually don't see the abuse of power or the deception in this people, certain people getting loans, certain people getting this and access to this, and seeing the wage gap and all these different things. And that's in demographics, whether you want to say gender or not. It doesn't you don't have to subscribe to it. It's just an abuse of power on a deeper level, energetically speaking. The manipulation in the feminine archetype. So with that being said, how can anyone think that this child or this child gets this amount of food and resources, and then you go literally two fucking blocks over, if that, and the whole dynamic changes? And people still are being fooled, because you even accepting the role in actually normalizing that, you're just as much as a fool once it collapses. You've lost sight, because this is my thing. Your inner child deserves to feel safe and secure in your home, in your environment, and so forth. But this child or these people in this environment don't deserve the same thing. These mothers don't deserve the same thing. Because what's going to be revealed is that these people don't have an abundant mindset. They're not in tune. They don't have an interconnectedness to the all, to source. They will fight tooth and nail to what I will have to, speak about and so forth. But they're not bigger than the program. I'm not bigger than the program. I'm just a part of the shift, just as anything, whether 50, 60, 70 years ago came in and people were not accepting of it, but eventually the truth will break down the fucking illusion and shatter the illusion, the wall of illusion, the wall of lies, the foundation of lies. It will crumble, and eventually in people suffering, they'll come to know the truth. They'll come into alignment with that. And the truth is really within you. I'm only giving you something that is within myself. I don't expect people to accept it and believe. But again, most of you have no idea what it is to get up and show up for you first. I'm waiting. And it's just my path. It's just my journey. I've accepted more and more. I get up and I'm supposed to observe and realize, like, wow, I'm recovering from an addict. Not just myself, a workaholic. I'm recovering from people who were addicted to working, to burning themselves out, to drugs, to upholding a false narrative of empowerment. And when you think about the environment in the community, I literally was around addicts. You think it's just drugs? No, people's chasing after money was their drug. Addictions are different. You become addicted. It's no different than social media and certain things. You become addicted to being an adult and lost sight of your inner child. Most people get up and they never had an opportunity to actually be a child. Did you hear what I just said? Some people have grown up never having the opportunity to be a child, to be innocent, to express their joy, to even embody their self-expression, whether it be silenced, whether it be, people trying to shrink them. And what makes you think that this hasn't happened into adulthood? It's still happening today in your careers. They shrink you in your careers. They make you feel small. They do it in your relationships. All of these structures is built around that. The more you think that you are at an advantage, you're not. I don't care about your career, your money, and what you've obtained. The little boy and girl within you still sits there, and when you don't pour into it, when you don't give any ounce of pouring into yourself, and I'm not just talking about, you go out there and be, I'm talking about in the sense of the little boy and girl doing something to where you have no care about who sees it, who approves of it, who accepts it. When's the last time you've been there? I'm about to create something in a minute, and I'm telling you, like, when you go home today, do you know how I tell people your home reflects your inner child? Your home reflects your inner world. One thing I've gradually learned as I've been here is like my kids and so forth, and their mother. It just seeing the fact of like how everyone in some way makes sure that they express themselves. Or let me tell you something. I make sure of it. Like having this opportunity to explore and experience a different side of my, recovery when it comes to my inner child, through self-expression. That shit never left me, bro. Like once y'all realize, like again, the home, think about the home. I was sitting here like the magic in realizing like how important the imagination is. Like never losing sight of that. And when I was sitting here thinking about this is why so many people are angry or could be angry at the fact of you're alive. It made me think about a memory where at the time I was in a hotel and I was trying to rebuild and reconstruct my whole life. And I was also recognizing the fact of the rejection I was getting from the family I came through, the family I came from and so forth. And I couldn't grasp like why I was getting so much like slack or rejection. But it became more and more clear that, again, these are people who have grown up, got up every day, never take time out to pour into themselves. Now that I relax a little bit, well enough, I'm starting to make my videos not just talking about the inner child, but so y'all can get a visual. Oh, as you can see, the table filled with arts, tourist season vibes, flowers and stuff with the kids and their mom, doing stuff like that. And then This masterpiece actually with the different colors, somebody sewed that together. I'll bring it closer. Somebody sewed that together. Like, this is like, I believe they said they created this in like the 1990s or something. And then I had something here, but I'm gonna recreate it. But other than that, yeah. I realize y'all be needing, we are needed to be force-fed these things. Not force-fed, but receive like these things. I realize how much like I'm accepting the role of, if you want to call it being a guide, or just simply embracing more of my role. I know y'all give you a visual of simple stuff that matters. Oh boy. So yeah, diving more deep into the inner child. So the relationship aspect, I know so many people are big on relationships. And I always remind people that the most important relationship is with yourself first. Because when we have lost sight of the inner child, we truly have lost sight of the most important connection that is valuable throughout the world. Throughout this experience. Meaning, like, your well-being overall is more important than anyone else. And what I'm saying is, through that experience, you will show other people. They will begin to recognize and see. That's why I know I have to keep doing what I'm doing, because I would encourage, there's gonna come a day, well, it's gonna happen soon. It's gonna be like a tidal wave, or I say a tsunami, where people are going to start living from not a place, because that hustle shit is it's crazy, because it keeps people trying to chase after something that's really unrealistic. For one, everyone didn't come here to try to be the next this, be the next that, be the that. Like, what about being yourself? Because being yourself, you'll come to the realization, like, you don't need all that other shit. You don't need all that other stuff. Everyone experienced and lived experience. You'll start to recognize that we're so simple. When you look at basic human needs, how you survive, how whatever you received growing up is pretty much what you're living out in your connections, in your relationships. So if your inner child did not receive the proper nutrients, guidance, and I mean nutrients in the sense of like nurturance, from your mother, the support, certain things that gave you structure that will prepare you to thrive, and consistently go through that cycle, that's all you're repeating. That's all this is about. Energetically speaking and everything, that's all this is about. I see the importance of like me just being able to relax. Oh, that's what it was. When I was in there, that's what it was, gratitude. Is that everyone's inner child is at a different season right now. Did you know that? I was like, yeah, I was telling myself in the shower, oh yeah, that's gonna be good. I was like, yeah, that's gonna be good. Everyone's inner child is at a different season right now. They're in a different place, a mental state, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and so forth. Everyone. And for my astrological nerds out there and so forth, shout out to y'all. Astrally speaking too. Even though you were at a level This is for those who are on that, that awareness around, like on a soul, on a deeper aspect. Even when it comes to that, your soul still experienced something as a child that you integrated, and then it's a process of illusion. Process of evolution that you still have to go through to gain a higher perspective, higher, elevating higher consciousness. That's why for some of y'all can feel like this too. I like to say my wise soul, because I don't like the word old. To my wise souls, you can feel a sense of the familiarity of being somewhere, but for many lifetimes, where again, it's your wisdom that allows you to be, you already arrived at the gathering, the party, and so forth. Your wisdom from your lived experience, whether past life and so forth, you are already putting things in place. And I know that can be very challenging for a lot of you, because it seems like, man, I know this and I know this. In reality, yeah, you know enough, but we don't know everything. We don't know everything. You can be an advanced soul, a wise soul, but you still don't know everything, because a part of you still here is actually to show people through your wisdom to be able to allow that inner child to flourish, because you've learned deeper lessons. Maybe as a soul, you learn deeper lessons, so your advancement is more so in your emotions, or in your intuition, whatever level, mentally, because different bodies and so forth. So your advancement is different. But you have to also learn to breathe. My elder was telling me, breathe and realize it's okay. Because you have to remind your inner child that it's safe, that you're held, that you're loved and lovable, even through the ignorance. And that's just, ignorance is ignoring the people, ignoring the truth about themselves, because they're not ignoring you, more so they're not rejecting you. It's a reflection of them. It's a reflection of the basic needs or the basic things that they didn't receive growing up that you maybe have. And when you look at relationship dynamics, that's all this shit is about, y'all. When you think about why this person is not able to provide certain things and so forth, ask yourself, did they get this young? No. As much as I wanted to at a time hold so much anger and frustration around a situation with someone and so forth, I looked at every, like, from not a view of an eagle, from a falcon. I looked at it like, whoa, oh, you know what? Maybe they don't know to put the towel on the rack or hang it up this way and so forth. Maybe that's just something, a habit they have. Maybe no one taught them that. They ever met someone, again, they can present themselves so beautifully, but deep inside, no one ever shown them the importance of cleanliness, and not just on the physical aspect, because being spiritually, cleansed or purified, that's also a repetitive thing that you go through. Whether that be fasting, then the emotional body, all of that is a form of cleansing. So when you think about the inner child aspect, it's referencing the fact of you still go through cleansing and purging, and most people haven't. This is why I say how most people don't know the importance of the inner child, and also how to even show up for themselves. They never even have the opportunity to experience childhood. Dang, what was that? I was just talking about too. The relationship aspect with the inner child. You're literally mirroring back to someone if you're open to learning through them and from them, because that's all relationships are, connections are. If it can be too much of a distraction if you forget about who you are. And this is what the cycle of even bringing children into this life. When you realize like a lot of people never had sight of even having a childhood, this is how people through abandonment wounds can have children and bring that in karmically. So it's not that they're not prepared. They can be prepared financially. Think about that. They can be prepared financially. But what about on a mental and emotional aspect? Because that's the karma in itself. Where the child comes and then now you're learning these lessons where it reveals something you didn't receive. The basic human needs. You're realizing, you do have emotional abandonment issues. You do have some unresolved issues when it comes to you're not as structured or secure as you assume to be. So that's the beauty of even the root chakra, or even because when I talk about basic human needs, that's when you look at the root chakra, that's what it talks about. Survival. How did you survive? What were you giving? Do you really feel safe? Did you really create that child out of safety or unsafetyness? And when you think about abandonment, you're not creating it out of safety. You're creating it out of fear. Because that's another thing with the root chakra, is that the fears, fear, if it's unstable, fear, and, issues with the reproductive system and other things, I advise people to research that. So even if it looks like one thing on the surface for other people, it's not the same. You're think about how much people have convinced themselves to be so disconnected from whether their emotions, things unresolved, that they're caught up in the cycle of adulting. And I tell you, this is on all levels. You got people that have been a part of groups and corporations and so forth. Like I said, I sit here and observe, and I was just telling someone, I was like, wow, when you look at the daycares, when you look at the schools and so forth, a lot of people never have time to even get up and show up for themselves. It's designed that way. I keep telling y'all, it was designed that way to keep people from actually being able to see the loop. When you prey on, it's a trauma bond with a society, with a corporation and so forth. As much as you want to convince yourself that you're thriving, everyone collectively has been in a loop of trauma when it comes to things on family, on all levels, all structures, globally and so forth. Everybody has abused their power. Just to keep you to believing that your rest isn't vital. And this is why so many people be at odds with each other. I was getting clearly like, this is why some of y'all don't even know, you don't even want the other person to experience other people because of your abandonment issues. You jealous of this person, all this relationship shit reflects your inner child. Reflects how much you probably were neglected, abandoned, dealing with some type of, again, basic human needs, the school system, all this other stuff. Mothers, putting them in almost like a fear state to where they gotta go out there and do this or their kids won't eat. What the fuck makes y'all think this shit is okay? While she watches another child's mother get the support and so forth and all these different things. And it's disgusting because how can y'all call yourself mothers? Doesn't matter what community you're in and so forth. Doesn't matter what you're a part of. How can you call yourself mother and you're not a mother to all? Because the inner child is just no different than a child being out there on a playground or somewhere else. And they engage with every child. You mothers don't even engage and be supportive of other people. You know why? Because you built things around the false narrative of emotional security and safety. Some of y'all actually have belief system that just because someone has a certain spiritual belief, religious belief, ideology or whatever, or just because of the color of their skin, you actually think that you're safe. You hide behind the men who support your instability emotionally. Your inner child has never been safe. So many people are in for a rude awakening and they starting to see it now. These are your leaders? This is your king? You gained all this recognition, all these things just to protect your reputation and all this other stuff. And then you really start to see the character, the integrity. Some of y'all husbands, men that you hold in high honor are so disconnected from emotional empathy to where it's a ticking time bomb, to where eventually they're going to show you who they are. They lost so much sight of the inner child, the little boy within them, that their character is eventually going to reveal that they don't care about you. They value their money, their resources, their careers over you, over their inner child. So eventually it will be revealed to you, over their family too. This is exactly why I'm not building shit towards that. I look forward to experiencing my children because it literally reminds me of the inner child, the things I cannot hide. Like I said, I've talked about my daughter, like the deep aspect of me learning things, why her purpose in being here, even my son, the balance in that. That's not to say that people aren't great mothers and fathers. It's just the fact that y'all lost sight of how it really brings up a lot of your insecurity. Like I said, you can have neighbors, you can have certain people, and I realize, like, yo, it's not even on them. When I say people have lost sight, I'm put in a position to see, to realize, like, wow, once you slow down and the divine puts you in a position and you're able to actually just observe and not so much absorb. I mean, you're going to absorb naturally, but actually look and realize, like, dang, I know when this person goes to work. I know when this, and this person, all these other things. And one thing about the feminine energy, the flow state, is that it's just like to say, and this is not, when I say that, this is not an attack on women, but it's to remind men and women to realize, like, when I look at the feminine energy, how it's ever changing, I don't see that as it being ever stable. And stable isn't something that's like it's just one thing. Like, it's always, okay, so for instance, this is how I give y'all this analogy. When I say the feminine archetype is always changing, I'm reflecting this to not just the woman, but outside of gender. It's how energy is always ever changing or in movement. It's just like these flowers, right? Now, you can't see it, but they're growing. And it's always moving. So when we try to attempt to place our mothers in positions and so forth, where they just have to receive and learn and do this and do that, it's not natural for them. It's not natural. They have to be in a flow state
because they feel. So I will say it's actually natural for women to not be in a sense of they actually enable or initiate what it is for men, if you want to use gender, for us to actually to water the vision. You can do it together, but it's like their flow state, if they're not in their flow state to where things are like they're honoring the cycles of their life. It's called a cycle for a reason. Like they're honoring and reconnecting to the cycles of the moon, the cycles of things where, astrologically speaking, the planetary alignment, things within them. This is within them. That's always shifting. I mean, notice how the clouds or whatever comes, the wind and everything, that's it's always changing. So for me to sit here, and this is something I learned through my daughter and her mother, and even through the fact of like trying to see people tame the feminine archetype or the feminine flow of them, it's unrealistic. It's not possible. Because this is where the control, the deception, the manipulation comes in when it comes to the inner child. This is what has happened to our matriarchal and the women. This is what I'm shown not to do. Even through my healing, even through my observation. I sit there and observe more and more like how my daughter just navigate through emotions. I'll be like this. And I have to breathe because I'm not capable to pinpoint everything to where I want to. And I have to remind her mother through that because, well, she gets it more because they feel. So she gets it. I will, yeah. And that's why I say mothers, women. When they realize like their inner child, a little girl and within them hasn't been in a flow state, it's been stagnant, it's been deceived and controlled to believe that not just their power, but the authority that's trying to be stripped from them, that they have organically, naturally, because they're in a part of everything in their flow state. To discard the woman or the daughter or the inner child aspect from the woman is basically for nothing to exist. There is no existing without the inner child, the little girl within the woman. When she lose sight of that, she lose sight of the beauty, the nurturance, the realizing that her flow state is a part of her emotional state, her emotional body, prioritizing that, honoring her emotions. Because when we're able to see this as men, as little boys, we don't see this as a hindrance. We also realize like, oh, this is a part of me actually honoring the feminine energy within me as well. Because then when you see the mother and father do this, then that's when I start to realize my sensitivity is my superpower. Me honoring my emotions is a superpower. I've talked to women and I've seen them want to cry. And I'm like, cry. You're supposed to. You're supposed to cry. But think about when they were a child. That's the little girl that's still in them. They've gotten to a place where they either had to be responsible for everybody else, be emotionally dumping ground for everyone else. They had to take on everything else. And these are the same women, when it comes to the collapsing daycares and all this other stuff, is that it doesn't allow them in that space. I'm telling you from observation, don't even allow them to fucking express themselves. Truly. They're asked to mask themselves through every emotion, making sure the children's needs are met while theirs are not met. I was just talking to someone that's in a position like that. they like, oh, teacher appreciation. And I'm like, okay. I say it should definitely be more than that. More than a week, a cycle. That's why I don't get into the holidays, the celebrating the Mother's Day. I get to each their own. But when I look at the inner child, your inner child deserves to be celebrated every day. And also through that reciprocity with the people that you're with. It's important that I see the mother of my kids like plant with my daughter. Because it's something she always wanted to do. So guess what she's doing? She's being a bridge to my daughter for that. And then also it shows her the importance of pouring into yourself, planting, because you are these elemental things as well. Structure. Things where she's out there where, of course, we as in our awareness is more, we know how to navigate through experience, through cycles, through experience, through wisdom, of realizing like, to be more disciplined in our emotion. Now, my daughter, I want to do this. As soon as something is not the way she like it, her mom reminds her, breathe, it's okay. And we still have to allow that to happen. But that never leaves us into our adults. Because y'all I keep reminding y'all, the little boy and girl has never left you. You actually been told in these settings, in these career settings, that oh my God, it's discussing how contractually it's literally to prey on your woundings, to keep you in a place of keeping you in a fucking prison, a box, your emotions repressed. Y'all been in settings where you can't express yourself and wonder why eventually people keep going into these work settings and so forth, and they're a ticking time bomb and they fucking explode. Then what do you have next? The jail, the systems that have been literally put in place to imprison you in a different way. When they imprison the inner child and it's built on that. Now that it's collapsing, now it's this free for all. Now you're gonna realize like people don't know where the fuck they're gonna put their emotions. This is where you have the mental disorder, the mental illness. Because a child mentally wasn't prepared. So when they go into adulthood, they're still not mentally prepared. They're undeveloped emotionally. Because basic human needs. What is it? How much water? I don't know what that was. Anyway, basic human needs. And people are looking to fix them. There's nothing to be fixed. It's things to be acknowledged. And then you support yourself and then build a structure within yourself that other people come along who will be like-minded. That's all this is. When you have confusion and conflict within a relationship dynamic or whatever it is, partnership and so forth, if it's not built on authenticity and self-expression and honoring self-expression on all levels, mentally, emotionally, emotional safe space and so forth, you're going to have conflict. Then you're going to have people, you got people, what y'all call the higher ups. Oh, well, I'm going to take this to HR and they're going to take this and this and this and this. Let me tell y'all, some of us are literally the karma for these fucking corporations and shit. We are the cleansing. As we cleanse ourselves internally, we are cleansing these fucking corporations and so forth. There's nothing that they can do. It's nothing. They can try their best, desperate measures. It's already, the blueprint is already here. It's been established. All of it's a loop. How so? Let's start from the bottom. The family dynamic. For some of you, y'all don't even see that. Just because somebody live in a neighborhood and so forth, doesn't mean they have opportunities to pour into themselves. Some of them still escaping. You just don't see it. You think just because the neighborhood is well put together, they're still not escaping? Through drugs? Through addictions in some other way? You just don't see it. I've seen it. I see it all the time. And I'm sitting here like, wow. They'll have you believing that they're inner child. They don't know how to show up for their inner child. They've been a part of the same system. It's just a different fucking structure. A part of the same foundation. So what's different? Let me tell you what's the same in this environment as the inner child. This environment over here, 2 blocks over, or 3, a whole nother city over. Let me tell you something. Don't matter how you twist it, turn it, and so forth. The product is still the same. You still been serving a drug. I see people when I go out in certain neighborhoods, they don't even get along. That shit starting to hit people. They don't have kids by people. They have no sense of joy. They have no sense of connection to their inner child. But then you'll see them, they have the most nicest strollers, and they went to Ivy League college. They went here, they did all these things, and and they're overly nice, but underlining passive aggressive and angry with themselves because they've been living their traditions out, and everyone told them that, whatever peer pressure, everyone told him that, well, mom lived like this, and mom got married at 17 and 16, and, dad has the business for 40, 50 years, and so what? They had all that shit. They don't got all that. And they hated each other. They never told you that. They never told you that. Because they hated themselves. They hated the world they built. They'll never tell y'all that. Because how many of y'all right now can look at the external world or what you see going on, if you have a sense of empathy, seeing what your kids go through, and actually have a love for this shit? If you don't love yourself, what makes you think you're supposed to love what's actually happening out here? Bullshit. Bluff. I call you a bluff. Stop it. You can go into a library, no matter which neighborhood it's in. These are some of the most masked people I've ever seen in my life. You know what comes up for them? Some people, it's like, how dare you can come in here? It'll be about this to some people, and maybe not. I've seen men look at me because of how I looked. These are insecurities. This goes back to the inner child. This goes back to the depths of people that you got people that through traditions of, them not dating outside of their culture, race, religion, whatever. They'll be looking at you and looking at your kids. Insecurities. I'm not saying that this matters, but it reveals the inner child. It reveals the environment and the foundation of the child. What they grew up in. How passive aggressive they become. It explains their behaviors. That's not publicized as it would be for people who look like me in certain environments. That's only to do what? What do you think that's for? To distract you from what's really going on in those neighborhoods. They'll expose a certain artist and certain people that look like us to make it seem like, we're like the problem. But keep the ones hidden who really have sexual traumas, who are living right next door to y'all. That you allow your kids to go over there and have sleepovers with their children, not realizing something probably could happen to their children. All of a sudden, your child returns and all of a sudden, he's acting weird. Billy's acting weird. Sarah's acting weird. Tay-Tay, Ray is acting weird. Y'all just fucking hide it better in your low cut grass neighborhoods and your big homes. You hide it better physically, but spiritually, baby, the universe sees all. It clocks all. It clocks all. Y'all don't know how deep this shit goes. Y'all think, let me tell y'all, people in certain demographics, you think just because those prisons aren't filled with people that don't look like us, the people that don't look like us in certain environments are in prison in their mind? They're prisoners in their mind. The divine, when it comes to divine justice, they're prisoners there. They're actually consumed. That's a psychosis and shit that y'all don't know about that people go through. Spiritual imprisonment. To where they'll actually believe that they're thriving. They're in a whole fucking psychosis. Some of y'all don't even realize you're in a fucking psychosis. Because you got so consumed in your trauma, in your experience to where the world has convinced you that you focus more on the physical, that you are in a psychosis. Where do you think the mental disorder, the illness comes from? Y'all don't even know how to live amongst each other because you lost sight of your inner child, the little boy and girl, the kids that know how to enjoy themselves without the company of adults, without the company of other people. They're more safer than your ass. They're fearless. My daughter told me the other day, well, I told her, she asked me, she said, Daddy, where you going? I said, Daddy got to go be alone, be with himself, go. I want to go be alone. Ooh, whoa. As much as I don't have an issue with that because you know how to be with yourself. But she said she want to go to the park alone. Baby, no. And this is the thing about when I see in them other places, the inner child. When I tell y'all, there's no difference in people lost sight of their inner child. They actually, let me tell, bro, this is going to rock y'all world. I grew up in a demographic where, let me tell you something. It's different, but it's the same energy. I grew up in a demographic where, again, we had to grow up and pretty much mother and father ourselves. But a lot of my cousins, we were like our mothers and fathers. When we went out, you mess with one, you mess with all of us. Because that was a way of us protecting ourselves. Now, growing up, we still have fun, but we still dealt with things where we still were plagued with mothers and fathers who lost sight of their inner child, who escaped through whatever vices that they had. Now, that gradually followed us, of course. Now, there's no difference in those kids in those, what y'all think, rich and wealthy neighborhoods. Wealth in physical don't mean wealth in spirit. When you lose sight of the inner child, you lose sight of your spiritual currency. You lose sight of the internal aspect that is a flow state to where you are structured in that rather than getting so lost in the identity of material shit. So think about the people who have the material stuff. They still have lost sight of their inner child. Let me show you how they show up. They'll let their kids be in these neighborhoods by themselves. And what a lot of y'all don't know, this is where a lot of unalivings, kidnappings, a lot of stuff happen. They never tell you about that. They never tell you about that because they hide it so well. People have lost sight and they're so off in their careers that they will actually place their safety in other people rather than themselves. So you think that they're experiencing them kids. They don't experience their kid. Let me show you something, the imbalance. The mothers that don't give an opportunity to actually show up for themselves actually experience their kids more. Too much so to where it does create an emotional imbalance, or she becomes emotionally irate or unstable because she doesn't have an opportunity to show up for herself. So, yes, mothers that are in those demographics that are single mothers, baby girl, if you only knew how more aware and more strengthened that you really are, that you don't have to disguise, and your anger and all that shit is justifiable because you lost sight of the little girl within you that no one gave you the guidance to bring balance and so forth. And not to mention all the other vices and stuff that you have to navigate daily Your inner child still navigates through the mental clutter, the emotional things and so forth that you don't talk about, that you probably can't talk about because they'll probably come and get your kids and do all this shit and threaten you, but they won't do that in the other neighborhoods. But let me let you know how still just as unsafe it is for you to think you should bring your kids there. Because guess what? They don't be around their kids as much as you think they do. They don't be around their kids as much as you think they do. I'm telling you from observation and seeing it. They'll throw their kids with the money and stuff because they got so consumed by material stuff. They'll throw their kids right into certain things because it's just another way from them trying to make time for their inner child. But if they're not balanced and really know where the joy comes from and really practice self-love, they're just escaping. They're just escaping. They just hide it well. They just escape through their money. You sit here and think you're at a disadvantage, baby girl. I seen it. I had to go through certain schools and really see it. To really see how disgusting people are to their core. To the integrity that they still don't have. Because they want to keep up an image. You think that just because homeboy, no matter their color and creed, live in this neighborhood, that they're still a part of the same corruption. They're still a part of the same shit that they have taken on this narrative to literally build an identity around. They just assert their power in a different way to make sure that they're not around you and your kids. But let them be in a position of coaching and so forth. They'll recruit your child. Because they know that child probably got some deep insecurities, some rage, some everything that he gonna come and destroy every fucking child, in this through it, asserting his anger through on the field and so forth. Baby, it's a system. And guess what? You'll end up following the loop of what they do. Give up your child just to what? And I get it. For you to what? Well, my son, he got this gift and talent. And he got to make himself, he's going to make it out for us and so forth and this forth. And all of that goes back to basic human needs. Your father didn't give you this thing. Now you bi-curious to live in your father womb through your child. I have to say the shit. Because y'all will never know what loop you're in. Well, his daddy not here. And so forth. So I got to make sure. You think that shit wasn't designed that way? To make sure that these basic needs are not met for y'all? Just so your son can be a product or a byproduct to what? Basically, siphon his energy or use his authority or, gifts or whatever. They just using him as a form to escape through to build their shit so that their needs can be met. This is why I tell y'all, when the inner child is not a priority, when you don't have no balance, people will literally try to escape through your children. They will bi-curiously live through your children. They will want to be the first person there to make sure that they get access to that child with whatever gifts and so forth. And it's no different than when y'all get into adulthood. It's no different. They know you are hard working. They know you gifted. This is spiritually, just as well as it's physical. The anointing and power that you have in your life, I tell y'all, spiritual warfare or whatever it is doesn't just happen when you arrive here. When it comes to your inner child, the anointing, the purpose that you have, we all have within us, baby, how do you think these systems or certain shit was staying afloat? It's because the more you have your kids and these things and so forth, it funds it. The more a lot of y'all keep signing up for this, it funds it. And that's in the spiritual and also spiritual, emotional, mental, all of that. It's an energetic thing. We're shifting towards the frequency is rising to really see how people have been preyed on. It's shifting. The inner child reminds you of the abundant nature that you have to have access to all things. There are no limitations. It's just a limitation that is placed on you young. So now you believe it. Now you believe you're limited to these resources and so forth. This is why they disguise that. That's why they built systems on certain people getting free resources, certain things and so forth. They'll have you believe you got to go out here and work for it. Instead of go within yourself and realizing, like, you know, I'm not going to sit here and tell them that their value is not in money and this and that. There's a value. There's an asset. Why would I tell you that? Why would I tell you that? That makes that, see, and this is why you have to be discerning and realize who the fuck is around you and your kids. And even around you. Why would I tell them that? Why would I tell them that? Why would I keep them from actually getting out of the loop, breaking the cycle and the pattern? And things are already unfolding naturally. There's a collapse. I told you there's a collapse on all of this stuff. Certain characters now don't have the ability to withstand, like, they're burnt out too. They'll never tell you that. They're burnt out. They're burnt out. And karma comes in ways to where I've noticed, like, how people are going to try their best and they're going to burn themselves out, because as the energy shifts, you have to realize, like, in evolution, you have to evolve, or the old narrative, old way of things, like, literally dies away. It withers away. The old narrative, the old storyline is done. They're going to see how people don't live from the heart. They don't live from a heart space. Even if they do, certain parts of them is going to reveal in their inability to evolve. It's going to collapse their structures. It's going to collapse the foundations that they built. Because one thing about when you know about the chakra system, you evolve. You have to evolve and acknowledge things to open up the chakras to keep them in the flow state, or to keep them, that which was keeping you in balance. Now you have to realize this is what's keeping me structured and secure and so forth. And the world is going to constantly reveal that. I told y'all from the deep aspect of you not knowing the importance of the inner child, which is connected to your spiritual currency and so forth, that is going to reveal more so how when you're in a position, it's divine intervention when you slow down. When you slow down and divine trying to get you to see something, you will see the flow state. You'll begin to get in the flow state. You remove blockages. It's like a river. Certain things, a creek. Once you remove certain rocks, the water moves different. You move differently. Things flow effortlessly. That's how maybe, like, when I do my videos, my paint, when I do certain stuff, it's effortless now. It's effortless. The money flows to me effortlessly because I am the currency, current. So the spiritual currency aspect in this is realizing, like, this is why they will approach you to realize you are a stream of income for the business. You receive income from somebody else who wants to place limitations on you. There's nothing abundant about that. There's nothing prosperous about that. That's to keep people in control, to keep people in being in deception, to where, again, I tell y'all, the monetary system that was created has not been something that's in a flow state to where all receives, you know, and it was created like that just for all these things to be exposed. Only for certain people to receive. And I told you, the same way I said this on another video, the same way they get it is the same way they're going to lose it. And that's through evolution. It's not wishing nothing on one. This is just their inability to realize, like, again, it goes back to the inner child aspect of children. Once you realize, like, when you look at a family structure or children, of course, naturally, you want you and your kids to receive. But when people don't value the importance of what integrity actually is, authenticity and coming from a flow state, you know, a place where you're secure within yourself, when you water your roots, And when you are, seeing the importance of emotional empathy and so forth, you naturally want all to receive that which is connected to you. Where most people have blocked themselves and would block their blessings is that the Pluto and Aquarius aspect is showing you where people are just simply for self. When Pluto is, when you look at energies play out, all of these energies, planetary, whatever it is, also represents that in a universal sense, it has an effect on everybody. Therefore, when you think about water, memory, monetary, Cancer energy being ruled by the moon, ancestrally, family, everything, that's going to reveal your characters. That's going to reveal the fact of how they are truly disconnected from that energy. They're disconnected from what things really are ancestrally, generationally, and so forth. So due to the fact that they're assuming, like, I'm telling you, the inner child aspect is like, people are assuming that they're blocking you, but they're blocking their generation. They're blocking them. This reveals the block is just ancestrally. That they actually think that what they're receiving is just for them and their family. I mean, don't we all eat from the same land? Isn't it the same foundation? The water, everything? And this is what people are, the new leaders or what's been established is more of ushering in the importance of the abuse of land, the abuse of resources, the abuse of all these things. The last is being made first in the sense of like the spiritual currency of realizing that control is an illusion. Separation is an illusion. So no matter how much people think they're going to separate, they're going to be, I always tell people are going to be brought right to where you are in some way, some shape or form. So many things are going to be revealed. Like I said, it's going to show you disconnected people. And it's going to spew out into their life, leak out because of the inner child reveals when you have internal wounds, you bleed onto other people. You cause your own suffering, self-harm. And that's where the self-harm begins. People think actually not supporting you or keeping stuff away from you is harming you. Divine was like, they're not harming you. They're protecting you. Because they're protecting you from their karma that's going to hit them eventually. See, that's how you have to counter. They're protecting you from, even in them trying to think that they're harming you, that's for your protection. Because you don't want to be a part of the collapse. You don't want to be a part of that. You don't want to be a part of that. Because as you're being elevated and positioned somewhere, evolving, healing, the things that keep you from self-harm and harming other people involved, whether that's through your own internal blockages, childhood wounds, childhood traumas, adult traumas, because you're actually acknowledging it and then seeing the importance of navigating through your emotions and having more empathy to show up for yourself and hold more of the capacity and be a safe place, not only for yourself, but for all involved. It's just going to reveal more how unsafe they are with hoarding the very internal wounds that they keep ignoring. The very internal things that they keep assuming that will never eventually leak out. They're going to bleed on the other people. No matter how much I don't care who they are, the leader, it doesn't matter who they are. They're going to bleed out to where eventually they can't hide. People going, whoa. Hey man, you need to, whoa. Hey, you need to get some help and support. Are you all right? And some people, their karma going to be in a way of like, they're going to have to sit with it while you elevate. They actually think that they're preventing. No, you're actually a catalyst. This is why some people can question why you have certain things, or how are you so well taken care of? Because I'm taking care of myself. I'm showing up for myself. This goes back to the fact of like, everyone is in a different season in their inner child. That's how I got to finish this up. Everyone right now, because of the illusion of the world trying to give you, the powers that used to be was trying to give you this narrative, like when you are thinking that you're supposed to be exactly like other people, bruh, that keeps you in a mindset of being a carbon copy, being a copy of somebody else. You focus on copying some other people because you have low self-esteem. You don't have the confidence. You do, but you got to rebuild your confidence, your identity around what wounded you, what kept you in a loop of wanting even to want to be like somebody else. Everyone right now, this is what I had to accept and recognize. When it came to the mother of my kids, when it came to me, my inner child is at a different stage. It don't make sense to people when I sit here knowing that I'm healing my emotional body. You might be in a position where you're healing your mental body, because that's a part of the physical aspect. You're healing for some of you who grew up, were not just initiated in things spiritually, but that's a part of your lineage. You're healing that part of yourself from being spiritually abused. Some of y'all inner child is at a different stage of your life right now. Meaning that the version of you that you need to show up for, you're either abandoning it, self-abandoning it, or, not having, which again, you're ignoring the fact of being able to show up because you fear the unknown, that it's going to collapse everything around you. That's intentional. That's divine intervention. Because it's going to force you to collapse the whole foundation you built shit around. Your inner child, a little boy and girl within you, is asking you to show up more, to recognize where eventually, because that's how the warning comes. Pride, comes before the fall. Some of y'all are so prideful and egotistical, egoic, or whatever, egoism. You don't even realize how much you're asserting yourself in this hyper independence for some of y'all, to where you're, again, self-harm. I watch people day to day, and I have to observe, because in my positioning and showing up for myself, I have to not only be resilient and show up for myself and say fuck everything else, because my well-being is more of a priority, to where I then see other people who don't prioritize it, to where they actually fear the collapse of the foundation that they built. And that's not just a physical thing, it's an internal thing first. So of course it's going to collapse the external, because your whole life is going to change. You're going to be recreated, reinvented. You're going to develop a whole new identity around your well-being, around your living, your being well. You're going to assert yourself that way to keep that balance. That's why you're wondering why I feel this way. I'm over here struggling, trying to, I'm suffering from this anxiety and all this other stuff because I'm trying to pay all these bills and all like this. Because it was never meant for you to do that shit. You had to go through it. But something in you, because you become so accustomed and so comfortable with the idea and the identity that you attach to, because whatever childhood traumas or experience that you grew up in survival, that you don't even see past the fact of you can thrive in a different way than your mother and father. It all comes with a renewal mindset. I'm thriving. I know I'm thriving because I get insight. I keep getting more insight and awareness. When I cry at night, when I cry here, something comes up because I acknowledge it. Then when I let it go from my body, guess what makes room for me to show up. That was repressed, can no longer be there. I had to get it out. So then when it purges out, when it comes out and I cleanse myself of this unresolved memory or this unresolved emotion and so forth, now I get to make more memories, healthier memories, more conscious memories, assert myself in a more conscious way. To build towards that in a slow and steady plant the seeds. When I plant the seeds, when I'm given the idea, then I plant the seed. That's why people fear the unknown, because of the duration. Because you've been so accustomed to quick, microwavable shit, results, and you get the results, and you're never satisfied with the results, because guess what? You never seen longevity. You never seen the importance. The divine will have your ass going through longevity. I'm trying to give you something that sustains you. You keep accepting the bare minimum, these products with poison, rather than building your own garden, which is a reflection of you. Your well-being is building that garden. I'm giving you the insight. I'm giving you the seeds. And eventually, you will have people come along. They will come along. Sometimes other people have to see. Sometimes other people have to go through something, and then they come to their awareness. Be like, oh, I see that person. Oh, that's something I was getting. Because once you get past that illusion of separation, you realize you won't hide yourself. You see your sensitivity as a superpower, especially our mothers. Your sensitivity is a fucking superpower. I don't care how much you were told as a child that your anger is justifiable. It's justifiable. I'm seeing that through my kid. Baby, right now I told you, Daddy said, come on, it's time to go to bed. Ah! Okay, your anger is justifiable. It's valid. Your emotion and so forth. But we still going to bed. The divine comes in as much as the divine mother, there's a divine father. It's a representation of the energy that has to keep you balanced. It's not the gender. It's the energy operating through me. The only ones we rejected is the ones that are not ready for shift and change, and renewal, evolution. That's cool. That's why it ain't the love comes with the hate. It's just the fact of the hate within the person. They don't have to love it and accept it. That's cool. They don't have to do it this go around. They don't have to subscribe this go around. That's cool. That's fine. I ain't mad at you. Because I know within my world what is operating, what's bringing me balance and structure. And I have to ask myself, do I want to repeat this cycle? Or is there something in here that I'm not seeing? That's what happens when divine intervention happens, where something catastrophic, what y'all call accident and so forth, that's divine intervention. Hey, that job you thought you lost, I'm trying to gain insight on an entrepreneur spirit that you have, that you've always had, that nobody in your family, present day, but somewhere along down the lineage, they're trying to give you insight. The ancestor of the highest good trying to give you insight on something. Something's trying to. I asked for this. So when I say spiritual warfare, the warfare is not so much in the people. It's so much in the internal battle with yourself. Whether sometimes you're asked to surrender, and sometimes you're actually to go at bat. But that going at bat or standing up is to stand up against those forces within yourself that became comfortable with being in something that wasn't sustainable. This is where people fear the unknown of the evolution, because it's going to force you to sit and rest and realizing that the inner child, your child never had a fucking functional and balanced nervous system. So here I am being positioned to recognize, let me listen to my body today. I don't have to force this. Let me stay in a little later. Let me show up for myself. Regulating my nervous system. Because that's a part of evolution. That's a part of me focusing on my well-being so I can be able to show up in a more conscious mental state. Physically, mentally, emotionally. So it'll be effortless when I do it, not forced. People are literally, when they lost sight of their inner child and the joy within, they force themselves to have happiness. And they force it in other people. I'm going to force you to love me violently. That's what people do. I'm going to force you to be with me. In career settings, people forcing people to stay. Doing things behind the scenes. Making sure that they're still caught up in the loop. Deception, manipulation. That's what happens with energy. I'm going to make sure they don't know about their birthright. I'm going to make sure that they don't know that, these systems and all like this. I'm going to manipulation, deception, and so forth. And they always get caught. It doesn't matter what people do. You always, some way, somehow, you're going to reveal your hand. You're wasting your fucking time. That's why they say it ain't just time. You wasting your energy trying to come up against someone like me. You had an opportunity to become allies. We had an opportunity. I'm being funny, but yeah. And it's just like children growing up, right? Going back to the inner child. They all out there playing. The only ones you see that really have an issue with certain things is most of the time what they dealt with at home or are experiencing that you don't see. There's no difference in adulthood. You'll sit there and judge those people because of where they live and what they, okay, you don't know what they deal with behind closed doors or even in the fact of that environment and community. You'll sit back and judge and not realizing you're being judged too. You're being judged too. And your judgment is here. Judgment Day is here for everybody. It's been already happened. It's already happened, actually. Like the judgment of some people, it's going to happen and has already happened for a lot of the collective. Because most people don't realize the old world narrative, the old world as you know is done. And a lot of you have already been judged. You already made your decision to be a part of the old world narrative. So that's your judgment. That's what you chose this lifetime. That's what I'm going to finish with. And you're choosing not to evolve, you chose your judgment. You chose to sit back and judge others and assume that this and this and this and this, you feel like you didn't have to do this. You made your judgment. And the Most High has made the judgment. The Divine Mother and Father, whatever you subscribe, made the judgment. The judgment call has already been made. What's happening now is justice playing out. Where there were injustice through your judgment, now justice will be restored. And that's what the cleansing is about. The injustice in how our childhood wounds been preyed on, so forth. You made your judgment to stay in that career. You made your judgment to sign up for that and continue through and so forth. In your injustice, this is anybody. That's a part of judgment. The scale is balancing. This is where the judgment comes in. This is where, in your injustice, this is where the justice comes in. That's why you see the woman in front of, there's a representation of, I realize it's a woman for a reason, the matriarchal energy. Because a lot of people don't know their judgment going to come through women. Because she's the closest thing to the spiritual realm, to the higher realms. That's what the Divine Mother is, the Big Mama energy is. Because men has been assuming that they have say-so. Yeah, you can have your so-called reign physically. But in a higher timelines or in deeper shit, those who know, who really makes the judgment call when it really comes to children? We have a say-so, but deep down we know that as these mothers start to come more into their lioness, fierceness, and so forth, they're going to do everything to protect these cubs by all means necessary. Yup. That ancient mother energy. Yup. And I told people this like years ago on my old videos. I know this is unfiltered inner child. But the most fierce protector is not the father. And when they try to get in the way, have you not seen what a lioness does to a lion? Not to mention, when it comes to them even protecting a pride, It's the lioness that attacks. And almost like, if you ain't part of that tribe, it's the lioness that rips they ass to shreds. And sometimes depending on who the pack leader, not pack leader, but you know, there is a force that comes in, you know, the lion, you know, when he uses his voice and so forth. But think about that. Y'all got people out here using their voice to dehumanize, to devalue the woman, the lioness, to do all these things to make them feel little, because they know that they're speaking to the little girl in them. And when the little girl is not structured and doesn't know her authority that she has, not just spiritually and so forth, this is why, like, this is about the daughter that's receiving her crown. This is the inner child, the little girl that's receiving her crown, her sovereignty. Because when that balance out everything, this goes back to the inner child, and shout out to Sister Myra for breaking down of the royal energy of the mother, son, father, daughter. Notice how the father is now realizing that his protection comes from the mother first, because he was a son. But when he has lost sight of that, he loses sight of his inner child. So when the mother doesn't protect him and smothers him and keeps him in enmeshment and emotional incessive things, it keeps him from the father protecting the daughter, which the daughter will grow into the mother. So you got to see how these are cycles reversing, and the healing is happening, realizing I know who I am, and I know who the fuck a lot of these men are too. And I don't mean just in a physical sense. I know who you are spiritually. And that's simply because Big Mama has revealed to me who you are. And that's why I tell you women, anybody who is preying on your childhood wounds, who are not willing to evolve and heal, you have every right to reveal your wrath to them. That which that they try to continue to suppress, y'all gonna start seeing so many women in their healing and protecting the little girl within them and they lost sight of. They're not going for that. In no marriages, in no nothing. You're going to see so much things as they start to really go deep into this inner child and start to recover and recover these unrepressed memories and what's happened to them from their fathers, from men in their life and so forth. What do you think is going to happen? There ain't going to be no more blurred boundaries. They're going to start building healthier boundaries. And when it starts with them, it starts with when they're protecting their inner child, they're going to protect their children. So just know, I know who I am. And I see y'all. I see you. I see you. Because when that father realized his importance and his healing as a little boy, then he knows that there's something protecting him. The mother's not just in the physical. The mother's in the spiritual that empowers him to be the fierce protector that he is for his daughters. And that's on all levels. So y'all keep thinking this inner child shit is, no. You don't think I had to go through karma to be warned? To think that I was still in my inability at the time to see my internal wounds, that no longer could blame my mom and all like that. My mother wounds revealed the fact of how the self-harm, the being harmed by other people who were harmed, my self-harm was, again, affecting other people. So I realized how unprotected I was becoming for everyone else because I didn't know how to protect myself. So in my emotional safety and stability now, or structure, and being and seeing the beauty in that, why wouldn't I uphold that within the people I'm connected to? Encouraging them, no matter how uncomfortable it is. You encourage people to show up for themselves. You empower them to love themselves, to love the versions of them that they don't even know why they hate. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's supposed to be, because you became comfortable with what has kept you suffering. And you actually thought the suffering was normal. So yeah, the collapsing. You're gonna see these characters. When I keep telling you mothers, if they don't care about themselves and they see the importance of in a man seeing his nurturing, like if he's not able to see his mother womb, again, it's going to have he's intentionally going to bring harm to everyone around him. He's going to literally in his how he asserts himself, he's going to bring harm, regardless of how you want to cook it. It don't matter his status, it doesn't matter his career. This is going to be revealed financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, especially for y'all in the spiritual community. That goes for religious figures too. Just what it is. In Unfiltered Inner Child here. Peace.